What's good, guys? I've got a trade recap for the trade that we took this morning to make about $1,000, and then I'm also going to be going over a second trade that you could have taken that I feel like was a pretty good continuation idea, but I'll tell you why I didn't take it also. So coming into this day here, I was honestly pretty bearish, and that is just because of this new week opening gap right here. So when we have a new week opening gap like this, I don't like to talk about definites or 100%, but there is a very high chance, I have very high conviction to believe, when we create this within one day, normally 2-3 days, this will very likely get tapped into, and on top of that will very likely close through it. So in this case, we would be closing below this blue line. I have high conviction to believe that's going to happen. It getting tapped, I have like 99%. It getting filled through is a little bit lower because it doesn't always instantly get filled through, but it will eventually. Like, it rarely ever just leaves these on the chart and never comes back to them, but it happens. So you don't want to like get married to that idea. You don't want to just short all the way through this assuming that it's guaranteed going to fill this. In this case, we did take a short, but you just want to be careful about that. That's what I wanted to make note of. But this was my main target coming into the day. I didn't want to be stubborn, but definitely wanted a lower idea, I guess, because we were tapping back in, coming toward it. So anyways, with that knowledge, we came onto the smaller time frame here, and I was pretty ready to look for a trade down to that, assuming we just got some good volume off of open, especially after like this 3-day weekend. Like, I was ready to go. So coming into this morning, 6:30 open for me, literally off of open, we got a pretty decent dump here. It doesn't look that crazy, but I'll show you, like, in terms of point value, 50-point dump off open. And another thing that I've been noticing a lot recently is, like, when you pick a liquidity target that's reasonable, and I would say like that hourly time frame, if we get strong displacement in that direction off of even like the first 1-minute candle, sometimes first 5-minute candle, there's a pretty high likelihood that that's going to get taken. So thinking that we were bearish coming into the day with this strong displacement off of open, I was pretty confident in these lows, this low, potentially all the way down to here, unless we just randomly started flipping. So that was the idea, and I ended up taking a trade pretty quickly today. So we got one up candle, and then this next candle just flooded again. Like, let's see how many points. There's probably another 50 points here. Yeah, 46.5. So off of this, I shorted, and this isn't like the perfect typical entry model that I use. You know, it's kind of entering low on this, but I feel like that there was a good break even point, which was this right here, about 15 points in. And ideally, I wanted to target all the way down here for this with about like 25-ish point stop, but I did take this trade on Alpha Futures, and I'm used to trading Top Step, not Alpha. And on Top Step, if you know or don't know, there is no consistency rule, so you can just take trades as you please. But with Alpha Futures, they do have that consistency rule on the funded account that I'm trading. So I had to take profit here to not mess that up. So a little bit early of a take profit, but still $1,000 on this one. Like I said, very clear break even point. So I feel like this was a pretty solid idea. I was confident we were going to take these lows at least, so pretty much like a free break even trade, if anything. And that is what happened here. We ended up taking that off the second candle, so I went break even, and then we just dumped straight toward those lows. So that was a pretty solid trade. And then this brings us into the next idea that you could have taken. The next idea here was all the way down to these lows. As you'll see, we just continued dumping, and I felt like if we closed below these lows here, there was nothing else stopping us from coming lower, and maybe it was time to, you know, fill that new week opening gap. So ideally, you'd want to see a close on maybe the 5-minute time frame below there, but the 1 minute was just really dumping. We got within like, I think like 20-ish points of this low all the way down here. So yeah, 22 points of the low, and also additionally on the S&P here, we edged that low. So I was pretty confident in this off of a retrace, but I will show you why I chose not to take it. So to start off, this was a nice down candle and then a good displacement to the downside here. So as you'll see, we did retrace like a 1-minute gap. But if you look at the 5-minute, I don't know, something about this, like, we are super bearish. And like I said, I didn't think there was anything stopping us from going lower. But off of this like crazy dump, like, we were already down like over 100 points off of open. I kind of wanted to see maybe a slightly higher retrace or something, but I don't know. In hindsight, I suppose like this was a good trade. I feel like I wouldn't have been upset if I took this. But again, in terms of like the liquidity draw, to me the most important thing is like the higher time frame and the draw and liquidity. And in this case, our draw was solid, but it really just was like that gap getting filled, and we don't know when that gap's going to get filled. It could happen a week from now. It's already been tapped into and rejected out of once, so I think it's going to get filled, but I can't say for certain. So I just kind of like, as this played, it kind of sucked to not take this, just to watch this go, because there's even a solid break even point. It's pretty much halfway down, and this would have played out really nicely, like virtually no drawdown besides like 1 second of drawdown here, because this thing just started dumping. You would have gone break even and then flooded the lows. So definitely another good trade here. I'm still conflicted on this. I mean, like, I don't really care because I already took a dub and I didn't want to like force something else. But off of this, as you'll see, we didn't even end up filling this gap. Like, we still left this open, and I'm assuming we're going to come back to this at some point, but look, did not close below this gap, just started rejecting. So this is why you don't want to force a trade, even though I had high conviction in this and those would have played. My idea was that gap getting filled. It didn't get filled, and you want to be careful about how hard you go on something. Obviously I thought it was going to happen, but it doesn't always happen 100% of the time. So unfortunately we weren't able to catch the second trade, but we did still get the one trade, and I'll show you the profit here. So about $1,000, just like the missing $2.80 from the fee or whatever. But yeah, 50-point trade here, shorts on the Alpha Futures account. If you did make it to the end of the video, I appreciate you for watching. If you have any trading questions, just comment them below, and I hope to see you in the next video.